Hey, good afternoon, my crypto trading brothers and sisters. So you all know that I went short on the Bitcoin, much to the disdain of some of my followers. But I'm going to go over why I did that and have I gone bearish on Bitcoin? No, not necessarily. I just found excellent opportunity, in my opinion, that I could not pass up. So that is why I went short Bitcoin. And in this video, I'm going to explain that, as well as just a brief overview of where I think we're headed over the next few weeks, maybe to the end of the year, not just in the crypto space, but also on the market. Now, I think most of you guys are fairly familiar if you've been reading my post over the last few weeks, where I stand in terms of sentiment and where I think we're headed from a technical perspective. But we'll just briefly review that in this video again. So let's just jump right in here. We start with $1 as always. And you can see here on the daily that right away I see it. Looks like the dollar is forming somewhat of a W pattern or double top. All right, so once we get to around the 107, 107.5 level again, I think the dollar will come back down. All right, and of course, a weak dollar means that the market will probably head up pending VIX price movement as well. Now, one more thing I want to point out before I leave the dollar chart here is take a look at this channel we've broken to the upside of, and typically we like to come back down and test the top side of these former resistance. And in this case, this was former resistance, which should now act as support. And that would actually coincide with what's happening up on the top side with that W pattern. So once the dollar comes back down to test that 105.6 level as support, I expect that to coincide with the RSI coming back down to test the top side of this particular channel. Okay, on over to the VIX, and you can see we are in some sort of ascending wedge, which is a bearish pattern. Really, I should color that triangle red just so you guys all know what this means. At some point, we are going to drop from that triangle. It's my expectations. That's usually what happens from a technical perspective. You can see down here on the RSI, we are using this line as support, and we are getting into overbought or nearing overbought territory on the VIX. So despite the fact that we got two colossal failures of wars going on, that's my opinion. Anytime you have a war, that is a failure of negotiation. Somebody once said, I'm getting off track here, but war is the absence of conflict. I never really understood what that meant until I realized that it takes hard work and negotiation skills to prevent war. And if you have a primitive or rudimentary mindset and you don't know how to work through the difficult phases of negotiation, then your primitive mindset will take you back to the way you won conflicts when you were a kindergartner. You know, somebody stole your Legos, then you'd go beating them over the head with another Lego or a wooden block, and that is war. And that is the essence of the people we call leaders, and how their small minds work. They do not know how to, and I should say maybe they do know how, but they want war. And that's a tough theory to swallow, but I don't see how it can be explained any other way. Anyways, it is difficult to see the VIX dropping, even with these misanthropic sociopaths in office we call leaders. But that is what the technicals are showing me. So again, when the dollar drops and the VIX drops at the same time, then we can expect stocks to move up. And in fact, you will see, and I've posted this several times, that we have reached the target of our head and shoulders pattern perfectly at yesterday's close. That target was 410. And what do you know? We hit that exactly. And just like I expected, I'm going to draw a horizontal line here. Alt H, I believe. Whoops. No, not horizontal. Sorry, guys. Vertical line. Alt V. All right, so look at down here on the RSI. We hit that support exactly when we hit our target down on this head and shoulders pattern as expected. So that syncs up. And what can we expect here next week? We can expect a bit of the bounce. All right, so especially with the, now it might not happen right away. Maybe it doesn't happen till the end of the week. Maybe it takes a whole week and we don't get that bounce until the following week. But with the dollar forming a double top, and we've just talked about that, and coming back down, and the RSI is showing we're going to test the top of that channel, so the dollar is coming down, with my expectations of the VIX coming down, despite all that is happening on a geopolitical scale. Dollar down, VIX down means SPY up or stocks up, and this coincides, this data, these technicals coincide with all of that. All right, so we can expect some upside here in stocks over the course of the next 2 or 3 weeks. All right, and finally, what you guys have come for, my BTC analysis here. All right, so I posted this already. I'm zooming out here. We had this inverse head and shoulders pattern, the neckline of which was that prolific 25,300 area. That was our neckline. We touched it once over here. I'm going to get out my circles. All right, and then headed up. We touched it again. Did not break it. All right, we kept that 25,300 as support. And then we finally have headed up and reached our target precisely at 35,000. Guess what? That happens to be a level. 2 levels actually, so this is a major area of confluence here. I spotted this trend line last week. All right, we hit exactly, see where this arrow is pointed, we touched that exactly, and so that is why I put in my short, guys, because I expect us to go back down and touch that 31,600. Now I'm going to zoom in here real quick, give me just a second. All right, so this appears to be somewhat of a bull flag. So I'm not saying we're going to just go there right away, and actually color that green so you guys know that is bullish. We could probably, or potentially, I should say, go back up and hit the underside of that trend line again, which is right around 35,500. I put in my stop at 36,000. I may have to loosen that just a bit. I only have 10% of, or less than 10% of my portfolio in this trade, I believe, something like that. I'll have to check that again. Anyways, I will be holding that unless I get stopped out all the way down to 31,600. Now, guys, if that level breaks 31,600, you do have to be careful here, because if that level breaks, we're going to go down further and potentially retest the 30,000. And if that level breaks, down we go. Remember, we still have this gap fill here at 20,000 on the CME Bitcoin futures chart. So that is something that is always in the back of my mind. And one thing I did mention in the previous in my one of my Telegram channels is it seems like just before halving, I'm going to go back historically here just a second. Just before halving, sometime we tend to have these flash crashes. All right, it's like all of the longs get liquidated, and then big money steps in and takes your bags. So I don't put that off the table either. So 20,000 definitely still could be in the cards. Okay, so I zoomed out to the weekly here to demonstrate my point, and you can see I circled right here. This was the last in March of 2020. We had that flash crash down to 4,000, and that's where I bought in big on the long side and made a lot of money. But in the last, let's say we'd have to go 4 years back before this, like 2016 or something. It's too hard to see on this chart, but there was a little bit of a crash right here, actually a pretty big crash right here. And then just after that crash, look at what happened. We went from all the way down here at 700-800 all the way up to 20,000. Then we went from 4,000 all the way up to 60,000. All right, so don't put it past the market manipulators to cause or manipulate a flash crash again, folks. All right, so anywho, that is the quick update, and that's where I stand on all of that. So again, just to quickly recap, the dollar we can expect to drop at least a bit over the course of the next couple of weeks, along with the VIX, believe it or not, and that will propel stocks up. Bitcoin, I do expect to go down and retest that $31,600 level. So that does not align with what the market action will do, and I'm not sure what will be the catalyst for that. Because if stocks are going up, you would expect Bitcoin to go up, but it doesn't always work like that. All right, it doesn't always correlate in that manner. One thing I just noticed, and I'm going to go back to the charts here because as I'm rambling on and talking to you guys, I'm still on the weekly time frame, and I jumped over to my Bitcoin chart and I observed this trend line going down. All right, so we broke to the upside of this. This is what happens as I look at different perspectives and take a look. Okay, so we broke to the top side of this trend line. Now, what can we expect to happen, guys? I always say this: we like to come back and kiss mama goodbye. Should we do that again? That price level is right around 20,000. I don't know what the catalyst is going to be for us to get back down there with Bitcoin, but that's another indicator pointing to 20,000. All right, guys, so that is what I'm seeing on the charts for this week. In the next few weeks, we'll see if it pans out that way. Until the next video, peace, y'all.